560 mobile app on your Alexa-powered smart speaker and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Mike Madigan runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Dan and Amy, that theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Wirepoints.com CEO, or president, I guess, is his technical title, Ted Dabrowski. And I want to start with this story about Chris Kebsinski, who's the CEO of McDonald's. After Mayor Triple Threat visited Mickey D's headquarters in April, shortly after the 7-year-old Jaslyn Adams was killed in her father's car outside a McDonald's restaurant, and 13-year-old Adam Toledo was fatally shot by police. That was a month earlier. He had texted Lightfoot after her visit. Tragic shootings in the last week, both at our restaurant yesterday and with Adam Toledo. With both, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say. It's even harder to fix. That text somehow became public. Well, gosh, I wonder how. And then, all of the card-carrying members of the leftist mob went to McDonald's to protest Kebsinski, said it's racist, ignorant, unacceptable.
Oh, he's got to
blah,
resign.
And SEIU and so on and so forth. There's a protest outside Mickey D's headquarters.
Yeah, Alderman came forward demanding for his resignation, and then Alderman Lopez stood up for him, and he said what he said was true. It is true. His parents did fail him. Adam Toledo's family didn't even know he was gone or missing until 2 days after the shooting. That's when they realized he wasn't around.
A spokesperson for Triple Threat criticized the text as victim shaming, so on and so forth. And so Kebsinski has dutifully apologized for his, lack of sensitivity and for the bubble in which he lives. He doesn't have the the lived experience of other people, and so he shouldn't have said what he said. Really, there's no conversation to be had about parental failure in these shooting galleries called neighborhoods around Chicago. Generations of kids that haven't been educated, that grow up to have kids that haven't been educated, very few intact two-parent families. No conversation about the parental role in the carnage on the streets of Chicago, really. That's
Jaslyn Adams' dad was a known gangbanger, and I'm sure he knew that it wasn't if, it was when something was going to happen to him. Even Superintendent Brown said, if somebody is a bad dude or a bad character in your family, don't hang out with them. Don't have them over for the holidays.
Yeah, this is like describing the sun setting in the west. This is just a known fact. This is incontrovertible that this is part of the conversation with respect to violence and the victimization of kids in this system called Chicago. But the story here is not the reaction from the usual suspects, the usual reaction from the usual suspects. The story is the reaction of Kebsinski, who apologized. Everything in Chicago and Illinois is folded into the government. And these CEOs are functionaries of the state. Yes, they have to do what they have to do to serve their shareholders and protect their employees and all that. They are not. Why did Kebsinski welcome Lori Lightfoot to visit their headquarters?
For political reasons.
Why did Kebsinski text her? Do you think she's your friend? What the hell's wrong with you? How unsophisticated are you as the CEO of one of America's biggest corporations?
Because everybody wants to be buddies, or maybe he wants a favor down the line. Who knows?
Until this culture changes, and I'm not talking about the politicians, that is a known quantity. They will not change. And they will not, the kind of politicians we elect will not change as long as you have cowards in C-suites throughout the city and the suburbs and the state and just about in every other institution. You just cannot work around that reality. If you don't change that reality, nothing will change in terms of the trajectory in Illinois. Do we understand each other? That's a fact. For more on this, now we bring in Ted Dabrowski. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. I've traveled throughout the state, and in my attempts to talk about reforms and the policies that are the right policies, I've run into so many of the political elite, on both sides of the aisle, that fit what you're describing perfectly. They don't feel that they can take on the system. Many of them actually are participants in the system, right? They've got big companies. They got big interests. They want to be part of the club, if you will. And that's I blame. We know bad politicians politicians will react to whatever pressure is put on them. And one sector that just doesn't put any pressure for reforms and for change is the political elite. And you could argue that that's probably the most powerful sector, given all the money they have. So you're absolutely right. It's sad that instead of pushing for reforms, they end up apologizing for what I think are, like you said, in the question of there's no disagreement among anybody, I don't think, when you get to research and all that the family construct is so important to the future of inner city, and the lack of a family construct is a huge reason why there's such a mess in the inner city. So
yeah, so Kibcinski, I'm sorry. What is it that I did? I said parents matter. So you're saying parents don't matter? You can't say that as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So mom and dad don't matter? The environment in which kids are raised don't matter? What are you trying to say, Lightfoot, SEIU, et al.?
Well,
no
they are saying
pushback.
That they don't matter.
No
they are
pushback.
saying they don't matter when they pass this Parental Notification Act, where you remove parents from deciding something like an abortion for your child. How the hell can you remove parents from arguably the biggest decision that a child could make? It's absurd, but that's the path we're in.
I know, but you have to be there for them to get their ears pierced, a tattoo, or get a vaccination shot.
Well, that's the craziness we live in.
So, Ted, last segment we talked about these 4 Virginia Democratic suburban women who voted Republican for the first time for Youngkin. And they did it because they felt neglected, and they felt that the government and Fordham neglected their kids and ignored the parents. And do you think that could happen here next election cycle with Governor Pritzker?
Well, I don't think we're election cycle off. Probably there's just not enough movement in Illinois. I think there's plenty of people who feel that way, and I think what's really critical. And we talked about this briefly last week. It was election day when we spoke last week. And Youngkin did win, and I think what that proved, and Republicans may want to listen to this for those who are, and any Democrat, of course, who wants to pursue better policy, but policy mattered. A lot of these policies were good politics, and Youngkin ran on policy. He didn't run to attack Biden. He didn't run to attack the system. He focused on policy, and in Illinois we never focus on policy. We always focus on attacking Madigan, or we attack Pritzker. We actually lionize, I think, Madigan by attacking him as a person, and look at all the stuff he's done. When in fact, what should have been happening all along was attack his failed policies. Because look, there is no state that has as big debts as we have. We have the highest property taxes, the second highest property taxes. We have the CRT coming out, out of the woodwork everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. You've got people leaving the state. You could run on policies in Illinois and actually make sense. And then hopefully over a cycle or two win. And I think Youngkin just proved that by running on these failed policies. He hammered it. He didn't shy away. And look what happened there.
We'll get to net zero. We'll get to net carbon zero before we have Republican control of this state with the current climate. And
2050?
Climate.
No pun intended, yeah.
2050? No,
That's when
never is my point. Yeah. Never. At least not in our lifetimes. I mean, never's a long time. But and I know that's your point. But I mean, just this okay, could it happen to Pritzker? We don't even have a candidate for Duckworth yet. Could it happen this cycle? Is it 2 cycles away? Tell me how this plays out. Give me a fantastic. I mean, I'm not talking to you, Ted. I'm talking sort of everybody. Give me, no matter how fantastical, no matter how dreamscape-ish, give me a scenario in which this turns around.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's really hard to see right now, but I always argue in some way that the fantastical does happen eventually. And, it happened in Virginia. Now, that was a different setup and a different, better candidates, et cetera, et cetera. But,
and a lot worse candidate in terms of Terry McAuliffe, a known quantity who had sort of, he's so disagreeable. He's so shrill. He's so hysterically such a Democrat Socialist Party reptile. I mean, that's the perfect candidate to go against. We got this, marshmallow that people see as non-threatening, and I'm just trying to protect people and save lives and follow the science and data. And look over here, I've got this nice person who will come up and regurgitate the same pablum and play identitarian politics, but in a very soft way, like everything he does with his soft hands. I mean, it's just a whole different dynamic. And as I said in the last segment, which you probably heard, again, show me where you have community upheaval. Show me where you have community upheaval on the scale even of a Loudoun or Fairfax County. Well, you don't have that anywhere here.
Yeah, that's our weakness. And if you looked at the last school board elections that we had last year, or was it this year, we just didn't get any movement because there's not enough people who are ticked off, right? There's just not enough people who are ticked off. However, let's do the difference. Virginia, probably we could argue, is a very good functioning state, nevertheless, whatever problems they have. Illinois, Chicago, the crime level, the thing is it reaching a crescendo, and maybe we're not there yet, but as they say, what can't go on won't. And, we can't continue the outmigration. We can, of course. We can't continue this kind of crime, and maybe we can, but those things are getting so bad that that's sadly, it's in reform's favor because, the massacres and the flight and the tax levels and we're going to come out with a new report at Wirepoints on what's happened to these pension debts over the last year, and it becomes crazy. I think people, once they start to know the numbers, have even more reason to leave, and that's of course sad.
And speaking of crime, this is last night at the intersection of Jackson and Springfield because it's been warm over the weekend, so we had 50 shot, 10 fatally, and then this last night.
All right, once again, we have a 10-1 in the 11th district, Jackson and Springfield, Springfield and Jackson. Keep them coming, but don't break your neck. We got 50 people fighting in the street. They're spraying officers with mace. We got a lot of officers down with mace in the face.
Yeah. Big 50 people riot. We don't know what they're fighting over. And then cops responded, and then they maced all the officers who are on the ground.
When it's 50 people that, not macing cops, when it's 50 people rioting who are like middle managers at big companies and entrepreneurs and school marms and so on and so forth, then come talk to me. I mean, I hate to be like, curse the darkness, like this is silly, but it is silly. New York has suburbs too. Los Angeles has suburbs too. You think those states are going red in 2022 or 2024 or before we're carbon net zero? No, they're not. There are failed states. There are going to be failed states in this country, and the worse they make it, the better it gets for them. And that's California, that's New York, that's Illinois.
Well, I can't argue with you there, and I think this is kind of tying in a little bit to Pritzker's speech in Glasgow. He's pitching that we're the environmentalist leaders and the EV industry, electric vehicle industry, and all that. And you got to wonder how many people are looking at him and saying, "Yeah, but look at your corruption, look at your credit ratings and all that." I don't know. Maybe they don't care either. Maybe they're just they're in the same boat as Pritzker. But I don't think we escape from this, Dan. It might take a lot longer than we want. But we don't escape from these failures because there's no way out of them except for massive, massive change, and we know we're not going to get massive change until what hits the fan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that there has to be a watershed event, and maybe it's a pension fund that fails. I'm not rooting for it. I'm just saying those are the numbers. Starting with Chicago police, it's going to have to be something that forces people, not forces, but compels them into doing something other than just being, just sort of existing in Illinois under the thumb of these people across the board, the bipartisan combine that Cass talks about. So something that compels them to say no more, because some politicians they run insurgent campaigns. I tried to do it, and you say, but isn't it enough? And but basically, the populace says no, it's not. And
Yeah,
until that answer changes, nothing changes.
Yeah, and so this, I think what people need to understand is places like Wirepoints, and I'm sure we'd love to see reform right now. We'd love to see change now. We'd like to see Illinois become the growth state and the destination it should be today, given its assets. But it's not going to happen. So then the question is, how do we get there? And the sad way that it happens is kind of like a Detroitification. And again, I'm not comparing Detroit and Illinois, but what happened in Detroit was every 5 years they did fake reforms, and lots of people left each cycle until you just didn't have a tax base anymore to be functioning. And that's the risk we run either in Chicago and or Illinois. People just keep leaving. It's a quiet, ugly, chronic, nasty, disease. And then what? And that's what we're trying to avoid, because that can happen. It's not out of the question. Texas grew by 4 million people last decade. Florida grew by 2.8 million. We shrunk, and that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, no, look, I agree, and I agree with putting in the fight while you're here. While you have to be here, you put in the fight, and you at least be recorded in the annals of history as being on the right side of these things and trying to do something. And maybe our ancestors will remember what we tried to do when they're able to actually accomplish something in this state. Ted Dabrowski, he is the president at Wirepoints.com, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You want your basement to be dry most of the time? If so, Permaseal is not the company for you. At Permaseal, we believe your basement should be dry all the time, no matter how hard it rains. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. I've heard many homeowners say that their basement only leaks when it rains. Well, you don't worry about your living room or bedroom getting wet, so you should feel the same way about your basement. Call 800-421-SEAL. We offer a free estimate, no haggle pricing, and a price assurance guarantee so you can rest assured you're getting the best value. If you want your basement dry all the time, you know who to call, Permaseal. We've helped over 450,000 homeowners across Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana since 1979 and have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. 800-421-SEAL. That's 800-421-7325 or visit permaseal.net.
Don't best for P and better Permaseal.
Gentlemen, make your health a priority with a quick and easy health assessment with my friends at Low T Center. They exclusively specialize in men's wellness and follow strict medical guidelines for your health and safety. They're one of the leading men's medical providers in the country. Low T Center reinvented the doctor's visit, making it quick and easy to get all of your levels checked, not just your testosterone. It starts with an annual wellness exam where they do a comprehensive health assessment so you know all the numbers important to your health. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have noticed weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels, low thyroid, or even sleep apnea. Low T Center will determine the cause and provide you help. And now they offer monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments, providing convenience, and additional health monitoring measures for your safety, including a take-home blood pressure monitoring cuff. Self-inject at-home treatments are $155 a month for self-pay or covered by most health insurance. At Low T Center, most insurance is accepted, so book your annual wellness exam today and tell them Dan Prof sent you. When you do, visit lowtcenter.com. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
If you're looking to purchase a new home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Dahlia, 27, nurse, wanted to purchase a home. Dahlia talked with an online lender who did not answer her question.